All right, so last time we wrote a letter to the principal describing a problem we had. Okay, and we had a solution. We're not just going to complain about it. We're going to have a solution to fix it. Okay, hang on to that. We're going to do this as an assignment later. Not today, but we will be doing it. What we're going to be looking at, though, is block formatting. And when I was looking at your letters, I noticed that there were tons of them that were not correct, and that's fine because we haven't learned how to do it yet. But when we look at how to do these exactly, you're going to go, okay, that's how I'm supposed to do it. They were all very different, but none of them were correct, which is okay. All right? So when we do business communication, almost all of it is set up on a block format. Now, what is a block format? Well, a block is square, right? Has straight lines. Well, on block formatting, everything is going to be aligned on the left margin. And you're going to see, well, okay, lined up on the left margin. Well, what are margins? Margin is the space on the page surrounding the end of the page where your text begins. So, for example, right here, this would be your margins. This would be your top margin, bottom margin, left and right. That's margarine. This is margin. Okay. Margin is also a business term. Okay. So these are the margins on your page. We need to make sure we can set those. How do we set the margins in Google Drive?
Right here. It's right here.
Right where?
No. That's sitting here.
No, that wouldn't be it. What do we go to? It's already up there for you. File, Page Setup. So everybody go to File, click on Page Setup. So File, Page Setup. Let me come up here. We'll create a new, let's create a new document. Okay, again, we go to File, Page Setup, and that gives us ability to change margins. It's already set to inches. Okay, so we'll be back to this here in a second. Okay. All right, so we've looked at margins. File page setup is how you change those margins. All right, now we've got a couple of different types of business communication we look at. The first type is called a letter. Have we written letters before? Yeah, I think we have, but we've not written business letters. If you're sending a letter to Grandma, it doesn't have to be very formal, does it? No. She's just going to be happy to get a letter from you. All right? In business, we need to have a standard way to do this, but note that every business might have its own way of doing it. So we do have to follow their directions if they give us, okay? But we're going to use kind of a standard way that is accepted most places. But a letter is typically used to communicate to people outside of a business. Remember, we're talking about businesses. Communicating with people outside of business. And it is also typically a formal way to communicate. So when we send letters out, we're not going to use slang. We're not going to use gonna, right? I'm not gonna, I'm going. I'm going to. I'm not going to typically write don't. I'm going to put do not. A little bit more formal. Okay. There are two types of letters that we're going to talk about. Also, a memo. This is with people outside a business is included. A memo is with people inside the business. So we've got internal users. Internal meaning within. So what this means is that it's intended to be seen by people inside the business, or in other words, employees of a business or organization. So it could be business, could be organization. Businesses, what is the purpose of a business? Do we know? To make money for who? The employees? The owner. Yeah. Business, its job is to operate for a profit for the owner. An organization is out there to help people, right? They don't typically have, they're not out to just solely make money. They want to help people. Yes?
Is Dylan there?
No, he's not. I'm sorry. I did mismark him.
Thank you.
Anyway, so people within the business is a memo, and we're going to look at those later. But what we're going to start with is the personal business letter. Okay? Now, a personal business letter is different than other letters because a personal business letter is to communicate between an individual that is outside the business and the business or organization. The example that I'll give you, has anybody ever been really mad at a business that you went to and tried to buy something from? McDonald's, what happened? He ordered a hamburger, they gave him a milkshake, okay. The example that I'll give you, let's say we're walking into Walmart. We go to Walmart for something. Everybody goes to Walmart for stuff anymore. So we're in Walmart, and we want to go down a certain aisle, or certain 2 aisles that are back to back, and there's dog food all the way down the aisles all over the floor. Crazy example, right? So somebody has opened dog food and it's all over. And an employee walks by and you say, hey, will you clean this up? Because I really want to walk down there and I don't want to walk on dog food, you know. I don't want it all over my clothes and my shoes and stuff. And that, you know, that's not unreasonable to ask if you could clean it up. And he says, sorry, I'm busy. Right? And you're not going to be happy about it, are you? So what might you do? You might get a manager, but you might, if you don't want the confrontation, you might write a letter, right? You might write a complaint letter to Walmart to let them know the problem and the employee's name and that kind of stuff. Well, that would be from an individual who is not part of a business. At this time, we're not part of a business, to a business or organization. So it'd be from us to Walmart. Okay? So that would be a personal business letter is sending it from us to a business. That could be, hey, I would like to get a quote on a price. I mean, you could call for that. But maybe you just want to send a letter. Okay, so from the person to a business. Personal business letter. And we have margins set up for this. What is the default that Google Drive has? Yeah, 1 inch on each side. Well, for personal business letters, we're going to use a 2-inch top margin. Okay, so let's change these margins. File, page setup. Let's go ahead and put 2 in the top. And then press enter. We're going to leave everything else the same. And if you've got a color on your page background, let's go back to white, please. Okay. So what this has done is it's changed from 1 inch to now 2 inches down. And we'll talk about later why we do that. It's for letterheads and areas to put pictures and kind of our contact information to make it look really official. Okay. All right, so 2-inch top margin. Well, what does a personal business letter look like? Let's take a look. I created this the other day. Personal business letter. We do have a 2-inch top margin, 1 inch on each side and 1 inch on the bottom. Got pushed up a little bit. I should be a little lower. Okay. A return address is where we start. So 2 inches down from the top, we start our return address. Let me see if I can't zoom in a little more. All right. 207 Cool House Lane. Whose return address is this to? If this is Bob Eubanks sending a letter to Ed Wannabe, okay, whose address are we going to put as a return address? Raise your hand. All right, return address is not going to be Mr. Wannabe. That's actually who's sending it. So in case you want to return a letter to me, I need to put my address on there if I'm Bob. So that would be the return address. So we start with 207 Cool House Lane, and then Ephrata, Pennsylvania, 17522, the zip code. Immediately following that, we have a date. Written out long ways, November 2nd, 2013. You do not need to type this right now. You might take a few notes, though, on how to do these. I'm going to have some examples, but it might be good to have things in your own words. And then we have a QS. What does QS stand for? Not question something. Quadruple space, absolutely. Now, the interesting thing on quadruple space, I want you to do this. Let's type your name. I'm going to make this a little bigger. I should have 2-inch margins. Mr. Oh, hello, capital letters. Mr. DeLille, And don't press enter, stay on the same line. What does quadruple stand for? 4. So I want you to push enter 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then type hello. How many blank lines are in between your name and hello? 3. So we're pressing enter 4 times, but there's only 3 blank lines. 1, 2, 3. Does that make sense? Okay. So a quadruple space is only 3 blank lines. Okay. So we're going to have a quadruple space between date and when the recipient's address starts. So who is it to? Well, this is to Mr. Ed Wannabe. Make sure you use Mr. Let's use titles. 205 Thistle Drive, Ephrata, Pennsylvania, 17522, same zip code. There's then a double space, which is only 1 blank line. And then the salutation. Dear Mr. Wannabe, we do not need to put a comma with block formatting. Okay. A double space, and then we start into the body of our text, of our letter. A double space is in between each paragraph. So pressing enter twice after you finish a paragraph. And at the end, a double space. Sincerely, that is our complimentary closing. You could put your knight in shining armor, yours truly, sincerely, with thanks. You know, there's a multitude of things you could put there. And then we have a quadruple space again, so 3 blank lines. Pressing enter 4 times, but you're having 3 blank lines. And then we type the sender's name, Mr. Bob Eubanks. And then that space in between with that quadruple space, that's for a signature. That's where we print it out and we sign it in ink, not in pencil, in ink in between those. Okay? And that is a personal business letter. It's not crazy. It's not too difficult. Again, this is from the person, from an individual to a business. Any questions on a personal business letter?